Becoming the mentally unshakable version of yourself. A journey to building inner strength. Imagine yourself in an extremely stressful situation. Everything around you feels like it's falling apart. Your job is a mess. Your family doesn't understand you, and your friends feel distant. And as you struggle through it all, there's someone next to you, calm, steady, pushing through every difficulty, one step at a time. No anger, no complaints, no blame. They're like a rock in the middle of a storm. You wonder, how do they do it? Were they born stronger than you? The answer is no. No one is born mentally unshakable, but they trained for it. And so can you. I used to be the opposite. Easily broken. Quick to anger. Quick to quit. I lived by emotion. I procrastinated. I avoided responsibility. But then I realized, if I couldn't control myself, I would always be a victim of my circumstances. I started changing. Not because I wanted to be extraordinary, but because I was tired of feeling weak, tired of living without a solid inner foundation. This is that journey. And if you're listening, I believe you're ready to shift your mindset. How you see the world determines your strength. It all starts with a mindset. One thing became crystal clear to me. The same event can break one person and elevate another. The difference isn't in the situation. It's in how they interpret it. In psychology, Carol Dweck calls this the growth mindset. People with a growth mindset don't see failure as proof they're not good enough. They see it as proof they're learning. Every failure is feedback. Information for adjustment, not a verdict. I once had an extremely smart university friend, but a few years into her career, she lost direction. She couldn't handle rejection, criticism, or negative feedback. I, on the other hand, an average student, slowly made progress, simply because I began to see challenges. As part of the training process, the new mindset I learned was this. If today is easy, I might not be learning anything. If today is hard, I might be getting stronger. 3 things that weaken you daily, and how to break free from them. When I started building mental strength, I realized I had to eliminate 3 toxic habits. First, complaining. Complaining is instant, emotional gratification, but it solves nothing. It's like venting steam from a pressure cooker. While the fire still burns, I learned to replace the question, "Why is this happening to me?" with, "What can I do about this?" Second, seeking comfort. We live in an age where everything can be delivered to your door in minutes. This has eroded our tolerance for discomfort. So I started choosing the harder path whenever I could. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Riding even when uninspired. Speaking the truth even when it meant being judged. And little by little, I stopped expecting life to be easy. Third, making excuses. I used to say, I haven't started because I'm not good enough yet. But then I asked myself, is being good the result or the requirement to begin? The answer is clear. No one gets good without starting. Daily habits that make you stronger. Even 1% is enough. I didn't change my life through massive breakthroughs. I changed it through small actions, repeated daily. Cold showers. At first, just 15 seconds, then 30 seconds, then a minute. Every morning, I beat myself before I even left the bathroom. Exercise. Not to get six-pack abs, but to teach my body, I control you, not the feeling of tiredness. Journaling every night. I don't write anything profound. I write exactly one sentence. Today, I didn't want to do X, but I did it anyway. That is victory. That is a record of discipline. Mastering emotions. The difference between reacting and responding. Once, I got angry during a meeting and said things that cost me a huge opportunity. Later, I learned emotions aren't the problem. The problem is unconscious reactions to them. In psychology, the phenomenon of amygdala hijack causes us to respond impulsively. But if you just pause for 5 seconds and breathe deeply, your prefrontal cortex reactivates and you regain the power to choose your behavior. I started practicing this in the smallest conflicts. Traffic jams, being late, being interrupted. I'd pause, breathe, and ask, what do I really want from this situation? That's true power. The power to choose a response instead of reacting. Failure is not your enemy. It's your toughest coach. I once failed on a project. That wiped out all my savings. At the time, I felt worthless. But 6 months later, I looked back and realized that period forced me to learn things no school ever taught. Psychology calls this post-traumatic growth. Growth after adversity. Not everyone grows after trauma, but with the right mindset and internal support, you can become stronger than ever. I began to write down, what did I learn from this failure? And each time, I feared failure less. An unshakable attitude. The foundation of inner strength. Strong people aren't those who never feel sad. They're the ones who know that sadness doesn't stop them from acting. I learned not to react immediately to negative emotions. When bad news comes, I no longer ask, why me? But instead, what's the next step? I wrote self-talk phrases like, I've overcome harder things than this. This emotion will pass, but the consequences of impulsive actions may not. That's how I rebuilt my inner foundation. Discipline over motivation. The tool of those who go the distance. I used to wait for inspiration to write, for a good mood to study, for the right time to start. And I realized, if you only act when you feel like it, you won't go far. James Clear said, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So I began to design my system. Wake up at 5:30 a.m. Write 500 words every morning, regardless of quality. Exercise for 20 minutes at noon. When you turn hard things into defaults, you free your brain from having to decide every day. It means nothing unless you act, and act today. Now that you've read this far, I don't want you to just feel inspired. I want you to do something today. Write down one hard thing you'll do in the next 24 hours. It could be taking a cold shower, calling someone you've held a grudge against, waking up an hour earlier, exercising for 15 minutes, writing a raw, honest post. You don't need to change your entire life at once. You just need to start. One small action can be the spark of massive transformation. You can live with the feeling of weakness, or you can choose to train for strength. True strength doesn't come from things being easy. It comes from overcoming hard things with consistency and intention.